How's it going, everyone? Video presentation number 2 here. The book I decided to do the presentation on is A House for a Hermit Crab, and this is by Eric, cannot pronounce his last name, Eric Carey. I believe it's Eric Carey. One thing unique about this book I just want to point out before I get into the summary here, there's an awesome little note at the beginning of this book. It's on the very first page, on the cover page right here, and it states, "For my son Rolf, hermit crabs live on the ocean floor. Their skin is hard except for the abdomen, which is soft. To protect this soft spot, the hermit crab borrows a shell and makes this its house. Then only its face, feet, and claws stick out from the shell. That way it can see, walk, and catch its food. When a hermit crab is threatened, it withdraws into its shell until the danger has passed." I just thought that was unique simply because, it's going out to his son, and I will get back to that lesson, to that letter later on in the presentation, because the lesson this book teaches, it goes back to that letter. So the House for a Hermit Crab, summary of this book, you start off with a small little hermit crab. He's going on the ocean, he's on the ocean floor, and he realizes, hey, my shell's a little too small, for me at least. I gotta get the heck out of here, I gotta find a new one. So he decides to take off on his journey, and keep in mind this starts in January. The first page simply says, "Time to move," said hermit crab one day in January. So as time goes on, February comes along. He's looking for a shell. He finds a shell, a little too plain though, according to him. The shell is a little too plain for the hermit crab. So as time goes by, we head into March. Hermit crab met some sea anemones. That's the word I still get confused on how to say. Anemones. So he said, "How beautiful you are," said hermit crab. "Would one of you be willing to come and live in my house? It's so plain it needs you." So one of them agreed to come, so he comes along for the ride and makes the shell a little less plain. Now heading into April, hermit crab passed a flock of starfish moving slowly along the seafloor. "How handsome you are," said hermit crab. "Would one of you be willing to decorate my house?" So he finds the starfish and goes ahead and hops on the shell there to make it a little less plain and just more decorative. Then we head into May. He sees some coral. He decides to ask the coral to join the ride, and he hops along. We continue on into June. He sees some snails, and he offers a snail to hop on the shell just so he can keep it clean, get all the dust and grime off of it as time swings by. We head on into July. And then July, this is a really interesting one, meets a bunch of sea urchins. And in the book, it states that, "How fierce you look," said hermit crab. "Would one of you be willing to protect my house?" So that is one of the biggest things of this book. Sea urchin agrees to come along and protects the shell as time goes on. Then we head into August, and the hermit crab and all of his new friends get into a pile of seaweed. And this is when things get interesting because it's super dark. And one thing I like is that the author includes a lot of synonyms for the word dark, said by the different character. So I can go ahead and read what it says in this paragraph here. "It's so dark here," thought hermit crab. "How dim it is," murmured the sea anemone. "How gloomy it is," whispered the starfish. "How murky it is," complained the coral. "I can't see," said the snail. "It's like nighttime," cried the sea urchin. So all those words and all those phrases are relating to darkness, and obviously how gloomy it is. So yeah, it involves a lot of synonyms. I like that a lot of what the author did. Then in September, as they're going through the seaweed, they meet a bunch of lanternfish, and they were darting through the seaweed, spreading light so they would be able to see. That's when hermit crab asked if one of them would be willing to hop along for the ride and give them light as they try to get through the seaweed. And as they do, it's October, and he approaches some small pebbles, and it says, "How sturdy you are," said the hermit crab. "Would you mind if I rearrange you?" So they rearranged him, and they built it around the house for even more protection, or the shell for more protection. Now, we get into November. November here, the hermit crab feels that his shell is a little bit too small as he has grown over the year. He'd have to find another bigger home, but the problem is he had come to love his friends and to make good connections with them. But as he goes on, he sees that there is another hermit crab who's looking for a bigger shell, and he offers that shell to him. And this is in December, so keep in mind that it's this is at the end of the year. This journey started in January. In December, a smaller hermit crab passed by, saying, "I have outgrown my shell. Would you know a place for me?" Now this is the quote that sticks out. "I have outgrown my house too," answered hermit crab. "I must move on. You are welcome to live here, but you must promise to be good to my friends." "And I promise," said the little crab. So that is a big transition as he's letting go of the things he loves, but he's passing it on and all the love and attention he got to another hermit crab that needs it at that time. Now we head into January. It's the start of a new year. The hermit crab stepped out and moved into a newer one. And the quote that sticks out here, and this is the quote I decided to pick as the one that sticks out to me the most. It says, sponges, he said, it looked, well, a little plain, but sponges, he thought. Barnacles, clownfish, sand dollars, electric eels. Oh, there are so many possibilities. I can't wait to get started. So that goes back to the letter written to this author's son at the beginning of the book, because this book teaches how you should not be afraid of change and to always be excited for what the future has in store. It taught that very well in this book, as in that last quote, he was thinking about all the things that he hasn't experienced at and what he's going to experience now that he has grown and grown more mature and grown bigger in size, so he can be around those type of things. So the genre of this book is fiction. Obviously, you have conversations in this book between two animals that wouldn't happen. You don't see crabs that have different qualities on their shells, like a sea urchin and a starfish and snails. You don't see that in real life. So yeah, there are some strengths in this book that I thought were very good, very important. First off, it teaches different qualities. If we go back to the sea urchin, yes, it's intimidating, but it offered protection. That is one thing that you learn as you go on in life. You're going to have to be protected at times, but you're also going to be the one to protect people in situations. And you don't even have to protect people in general. It can be your feeling. You can be protecting your feelings. You can be protecting physical objects like your home, or even your family members, stuff like that. Yeah. One weakness. We go back to another strength. Another strength I saw in this book was to not be afraid. That goes back to what I said. He was thinking about the possibilities that he was going to see as he's grown in life. So that's another big thing. The weakness, though, I wish it could have rhymed a little bit more. There were some instances where it rhymed, but I feel like rhyming just always keeps a child's attention. This book definitely kept my attention, but I thought it would have added a little bit more effect to it if it would have had more rhyming stanzas. And for the grade, I feel like this is appropriate for is a third grade, maybe second grade. It has those types of images in the book and type of paragraphs that are just long enough and short enough for a person to read in that age level. And it also has lots of illustrations as well. And speaking of the illustrations, I think the biggest thing that the author made in this book was the amount of detail he put in the shell. As you can see on this first page, when he walks up to the shell, you can see there's dirt on it. It's upside down. There's seaweed, so you can tell that this thing has been abandoned. And as we move on later in the book, you can see details on this rock here. As the snails are trying to clean it up, but you see all the I don't know what you call that, but it's not just a plain rock. There's I guess you can call it algae on it. There's algae and there's other stuff. And even the different floors, like the floor bottoms of each page are different. You take a look at this one, it's a little bit different than the page before. It's a little bit lighter on this side. And as you continue to go forward, see different floorboards, different floor, sea floors. So yeah, I mean, he definitely went into detail on how different each part of the ocean really is. I really did like the seaweed part. As you can tell, it's a little dark. Seaweed's super tall in the ocean, so he made that very well known in this book. So yeah, overall, I do recommend this book. It's a very awesome, really good read. I definitely did learn a lesson at the end of this, and this is the perfect book if you are teaching children who are not so confident in moving on to the next grade. I can definitely see this being a book that you would read towards the end of the school year, and a activity I thought about doing by using this book was for each kid or each student to draw their own shell, or I could go on the internet, print out my own shells, and just give them out to the kids. And on that shell is to write qualities that they think they have in their life, and also what qualities they think are going to be necessary for the next step that they're going to take going into the grade level above them. So that's all I have for you guys. I really recommend reading this, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your week.